Welcome to the opulent world of Manhattan's elite, where gleaming skyscrapers pierce the sky. Tonight we delve into the heart of this concrete jungle, to uncover a chilling tale that unfolded behind the closed doors of a prestigious penthouse. Our story takes place at the Hawthorne, a towering testament to extravagance and exclusivity. But even amidst such grandeur, darkness can lurk in the shadows. And tonight those shadows hold a sinister secret. He was an unassuming figure, a fixture in the grand lobby of the Hawthorne. His days spent greeting residents, accepting deliveries, and ensuring the smooth operation of the building's day-to-day life. But beneath his quiet demeanor lay a keen mind, one that absorbed the comings and goings of the building's inhabitants. He knew their routines, their secrets, their darkest desires. His diary, a window into the secret lives of the wealthy and powerful, held the key to unlocking a twisted game of betrayal, deceit, and cold-blooded murder. And tonight, we delve into the mind of the Doorman, whose keen eye and meticulous notes will guide us through a labyrinth of intrigue and suspense. It began, as most mysteries do, with an ordinary day. The sun rose over Manhattan, casting its golden glow on the bustling streets below. At the Hawthorne, the usual cast of characters came and went, their lives a whirlwind of meetings, social engagements, and clandestine affairs. The Doorman, ever vigilant at his post, observed it all. He noted the arrival of a mysterious woman, her face veiled, her purpose unknown. He overheard snippets of conversations, whispers of financial troubles and marital discord. As the day wore on, a sense of unease settled over the Doorman. Little did he know that his instincts were about to be confirmed in the most horrifying way imaginable. High atop the gleaming tower of the Hawthorne resided Arthur van der Linde. His name, a whisper in the circles of high society, synonymous with wealth, influence, and a certain untouchable aura. Arthur's penthouse, a testament to his refined taste, boasted floor-to-ceiling windows that offered breathtaking views of the city that never sleeps. His life, a carefully curated masterpiece, was the envy of many, a tapestry woven from threads of extravagant galas, high-stakes business deals, and a revolving door of socialites vying for his attention. Yet, beneath the veneer of opulence and success, a darkness lurked. Arthur's world was one of meticulously planned schedules and orchestrated events. His days, ruled by appointments and obligations, left little room for spontaneity. That Thursday, however, began to unravel with a series of unusual occurrences. It started with a misplaced document, a seemingly insignificant contract that had vanished from his meticulously organized desk. Then came the unsettling phone call, a hushed conversation in a language Arthur didn't recognize, leaving him visibly shaken. The Doorman, ever observant from his post in the lobby, noticed a shift in Arthur's demeanor that day. Later that evening, a lavish dinner party was scheduled at the Penthouse. The Hawthorne, with its walls steeped in the secrets of its residents, had always held an air of mystery for the Doorman. He'd borne witness to countless clandestine meetings, overheard whispered arguments, and seen the masks people wore slip when they thought no one was watching. Over the years he'd developed an almost uncanny ability to sense when something was amiss. And on this particular night, the atmosphere within the building crackled with an unsettling energy. The usual murmur of polite conversation seemed strained, replaced by a palpable tension that hung thick in the air. As the guests for Arthur's dinner party arrived, the Doorman observed them closely. There was an air of forced gaiety about them. Their smiles strained, their eyes betraying a mixture of curiosity and apprehension. One by one they disappeared into the elevator, ascending to the penthouse where the night's events would unfold. It was a stormy night, the wind howling like a banshee outside the Hawthorne's grand windows. Rain lashed against the glass, blurring the city lights into an impressionistic canvas of shimmering golds and reds. Inside, however, the atmosphere was even more turbulent. The Doorman, his shift nearing its end, couldn't shake the feeling of unease that had been building all day. He'd watched the guests arrive, their faces masks of forced smiles and concealed anxieties. And then, at precisely 10:47 p.m., according to the timestamp on the security footage, a figure dressed entirely in black arrived. The doorman, his instincts screaming that something was wrong, made a note of the time and the stranger's appearance in his diary. The doorman's diary, a worn leather-bound volume, lay open on the detective's desk. Its pages, filled with meticulous observations and cryptic notes, had become a crucial piece of evidence in the puzzling death of Arthur van der Linde. Detective Harding, a seasoned investigator with a world-weary air, traced the doorman's spidery handwriting with his finger. Years on the force had taught him that the most unassuming individuals often held the key to unlocking the most baffling mysteries. Each entry in the diary, a snapshot of life within the Hawthorne, painted a vivid picture of the building's inhabitants. The doorman's observations, initially seeming trivial, began to reveal a web of hidden relationships, simmering resentments and dangerous liaisons. The doorman had always taken pride in his ability to remain unnoticed, a silent observer in a world of ostentatious displays. Yet, his position afforded him a unique vantage point, a silent witness to the comings and goings of the Hawthorne's residents. His diary entries, filled with timestamps and brief descriptions, revealed a pattern of unusual activity in the days leading up to Arthur's death. There were late-night visits from individuals who took pains to conceal their identities, their faces hidden beneath wide-brimmed hats and behind raised collars. The doorman had noted the arrival of a mysterious woman, her face veiled, her purpose unknown, on several occasions in the weeks preceding the murder. He'd logged the frequent visits of a man who always seemed to arrive under the cover of darkness, his face obscured by the shadows. And, most unsettling of all, there was no record of them ever leaving. Detective Harding, his brow furrowed in concentration, studied the guest list for Arthur's final dinner party. Each name represented a player in the intricate tapestry of Arthur's life, a potential suspect in the growing mystery surrounding his death. There was Vivian, Arthur's glamorous wife, whose icy beauty hid a sharp intellect and an ambition that knew no bounds. Then there was Charles, Arthur's longtime business partner, a man whose affable demeanor masked a ruthless streak and a history of shady dealings. The guest list also included a cast of socialites, each with their own secrets and aspirations, all vying for a place in Arthur's inner circle. As Harding scrutinized the names, he couldn't shake the feeling that each one held a piece of the puzzle. The doorman's diary entries began to paint a picture of a man living a double life. Arthur van der Linde, the epitome of success and sophistication, harbored secrets that threatened to unravel the carefully crafted facade he presented to the world. There were whispers of financial troubles, hushed phone calls in the dead of night, and clandestine meetings in secluded corners of the city. The doorman, a silent observer to these clandestine activities, dutifully recorded each detail in his diary, unaware that his notes would become a roadmap to exposing a web of deceit and betrayal. The Hawthorne, once a symbol of luxury and exclusivity, now felt tainted by the shadow of suspicion. The residents, once objects of envy and admiration, were now potential suspects in a murder investigation that had sent shockwaves through their gilded world. The discovery of Arthur van der Linde's lifeless body sent shockwaves through the Hawthorne, shattering the illusion of serenity that cloaked its opulent halls. The once pristine carpets were now trampled by the heavy boots of police officers, their faces grim as they surveyed the scene. Detective Harding, a man who had seen more than his fair share of darkness, approached the investigation with a methodical calm that belied the churning turmoil within. The doorman, thrust into the center of a murder investigation, found himself recounting the events of that fateful night, his words tumbling over each other in a torrent of nervous energy. He described the arrival of the guests, their forced smiles and veiled anxieties, the palpable tension that hung in the air like a shroud. As the initial interviews commenced, a portrait of Arthur van der Linde began to emerge, one that was far more complex than the polished image he had presented to the world. The early days of the investigation were a whirlwind of dead ends and false leads, each clue a tantalizing thread that seemed to lead nowhere. Vivian, Arthur's wife, presented a stoic facade, her grief carefully controlled, her alibi airtight but her demeanor cold and calculating. Charles, Arthur's business partner, claimed ignorance, his usual charm tinged with a hint of desperation as he vehemently denied any involvement in his friend's demise. The other guests, a mix of social climbers and hangers-on, offered a chorus of alibis and half-truths, their stories often contradicting one another, adding to the confusion rather than shedding light on the truth. Detective Harding, a seasoned investigator, recognized the telltale signs of a carefully orchestrated cover-up. Each suspect had something to hide, a motive they were desperate to conceal. The doorman's diary, however, offered a glimmer of hope amidst the growing frustration. As Detective Harding immersed himself in the doorman's meticulous observations, a chilling pattern began to emerge. Entries that had seemed insignificant at first glance now took on a sinister new meaning, revealing an undercurrent of tension and animosity beneath the surface of Arthur van der Linde's seemingly charmed life. The doorman had noted, for instance, a heated argument between Arthur and an unidentified individual in the lobby just days before the murder. The stranger's face was obscured by the poor lighting, but the doorman had distinctly heard Arthur's voice, laced with anger and fear, utter a single chilling phrase, "You wouldn't dare." Another entry described a series of late-night phone calls received by Arthur, his voice hushed, his demeanor agitated. The doorman, unable to overhear the conversations, had nonetheless noted the numbers dialed, recognizing one as belonging to a prominent attorney specializing in high-stakes divorce settlements. The diary also revealed that Vivian, Arthur's wife, had made several trips out of the city in the weeks leading up to the murder, her destinations unknown, her absences unexplained. Was she merely seeking solace from a crumbling marriage, or was there a more sinister motive behind her sudden disappearances? As days turned into nights, the pressure mounted on Detective Harding and his team to solve the case. The media frenzy surrounding the murder of Arthur van der Linde showed no signs of abating, fueled by salacious rumors and the insatiable public appetite for scandal. Every interview seemed to raise more questions than answers, every lead a dead end. The Hawthorne, once a symbol of aspiration and success, had become synonymous with tragedy and suspicion, yet Detective Harding refused to give up. He pored over the evidence, his mind racing, determined to connect the dots, to find the missing piece of the puzzle that would unlock the truth. The doorman's diary, with its meticulous observations and cryptic clues, remained his most valuable tool. He knew that somewhere within those pages lay the answer to the mystery, a hidden detail, an overlooked connection that held the key to unmasking the killer. Time was running out, but Harding clung to the belief that justice, however long it took to achieve, would prevail. Detective Harding was reviewing the security footage from the night of Arthur's murder when he noticed a tiny detail he had missed before. The figure in black had briefly brushed their hand against the railing, revealing a distinctive ring. Harding recognized the ring from a photograph of Arthur van der Linde's inner circle. It was Charles's ring, Arthur's trusted business partner. Charles had been lying all along, driven by greed to take control of Arthur's business. The weight of evidence against Charles mounted with each passing hour. His alibi crumbled under Detective Harding's relentless investigation. Phone records placed him at the scene, and fibers from his coat matched those found at the Penthouse. Witnesses came forward with damning accounts of Charles's shady dealings. The Hawthorne fell silent as news of his arrest spread. Residents, once eager to distance themselves, now faced a nightmare. A killer had been living among them. The doorman's diary became crucial evidence. His observations played a pivotal role in justice. Detective Harding, fatigued but satisfied, prepared to make the arrest. The truth had risen to the surface. Justice, though delayed, was about to be served. Charles, confronted with the overwhelming evidence against him, crumbled like a house of cards. His carefully constructed facade of respectability shattered, revealing the ruthless and calculating mind of a cold-blooded killer. He confessed to the crime, his words a chilling testament to the depths of his greed and desperation. He spoke of mounting debts, a gambling addiction that spiraled out of control, and a desperate need to silence Arthur before he exposed Charles's financial misdeeds and ruined him. He had planned it meticulously, using his knowledge of Arthur's routine and the layout of the penthouse to his advantage. The figure in black, Charles revealed, was not a hired assassin, as Detective Harding had initially suspected, but a desperate soul, down on their luck and willing to do anything for a quick payout. Charles had promised them a hefty sum, enough to disappear and start a new life, far away from the gilded cage of the Hawthorne and the consequences of their actions. The investigation uncovered a web of deceit that extended far beyond the walls of the Hawthorne. Charles, it turned out, had been living a double life for years, his carefully curated image as a successful businessman, a carefully constructed facade to conceal his illicit activities. He had used his charm and connections to manipulate those around him, preying on their weaknesses and exploiting their trust for his own personal gain. Despite Charles's confession, the identity of the figure in black remained a mystery. The doorman could offer no further information, their face obscured by shadows, their voice a muffled whisper. Detective Harding pursued every lead, however tenuous. He scoured missing persons reports, combed through hours of security footage, and interviewed countless individuals, yet the figure in black remained an enigma, a ghost haunting the investigation. The mystery weighed heavily on the doorman. He replayed that night in his mind, searching for a clue, a detail he might have missed. Anything to bring closure and lay the ghost to rest. He felt responsible, their anonymity a personal failure. As weeks turned into months, the trail ran cold. The figure in black vanished, leaving unanswered questions. Detective Harding vowed to never give up hope, convinced the truth would emerge. The trial of Charles was swift and merciless. The evidence against him, meticulously gathered and presented by Detective Harding and his team, left no room for doubt. The jury, their faces grim, delivered a unanimous guilty verdict, condemning Charles to a life behind bars, his dreams of wealth and power reduced to ashes. The Hawthorne, once a symbol of unattainable luxury, now bore the stigma of scandal and tragedy. The residents, their lives irrevocably intertwined by the events of that fateful night, retreated further into their gilded cages, haunted by the knowledge that such darkness could penetrate even the most fortified walls. The doorman, hailed as a hero by some, pitied by others, found himself unable to escape the shadow of the Hawthorne. He continued his duties, his movements mechanical, his gaze distant, his thoughts forever drawn back to the night of Arthur van der Linde's murder, the secrets he had uncovered, and the unsettling mystery of the figure in black. Justice had been served, but it had come at a cost. The Hawthorne, once a beacon of hope and aspiration, now stood as a stark reminder that even in a world of unimaginable wealth and privilege, darkness lurked just beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment to rear its ugly head. And the doorman, a silent witness to the best and worst of humanity, was left to grapple with the knowledge that some wounds, like some secrets, never truly heal. The Penthouse murder at the Hawthorne sent ripples through the city's elite. The illusion of safety and invincibility so carefully constructed within those walls lay shattered. Whispers of the scandal followed the residents, their names forever linked to the tragedy. Arthur van der Linde's death, initially a source of salacious gossip, became a cautionary tale, a reminder that even amidst unimaginable wealth, true happiness remained elusive. The Hawthorne, once an object of envy, now stood as a symbol of the emptiness that could accompany a life driven by ambition and greed. The doorman, forever marked by the events he had witnessed, continued his silent watch over the building. He had become a keeper of secrets, both whispered and unspoken, the weight of their knowledge a heavy burden to bear. He observed the new residents, their faces reflecting the same aspirations and anxieties as those who had come before, and wondered if they too would succumb to the darkness that seemed to cling to the Hawthorne's gilded halls. The city, a relentless tide of ambition and desire, moved on, its insatiable appetite for scandal already seeking out its next target. But within the walls of the Hawthorne, a sense of unease lingered, a silent acknowledgement that some wounds, like some secrets, never truly heal. The Penthouse, once a sanctuary of luxury, remained empty, a silent memorial to a life cut short, and a chilling reminder that even in the heart of a city that never sleeps, some truths refuse to stay buried.